I want to start with the Alabama situation, with Ryan Grubb taking the offensive coordinator job at the Seahawks. Now the offensive line coach, Scott Huff, going with him as well. When it comes to Kalen DeBoer and calling plays, I want to tell you what I think first, and I want to get your reaction. I think it's a lot different than the situation Hugh Freeze finds himself in, right? Hugh Freeze is a year into Auburn. The offense really didn't work out as well without him calling the plays. Now it's kind of on you to right the ship. This is your bag. If you're going to go out, you go out in your own shield. I think everything is circumstantial. Kalen DeBoer is not in that spot right now, in my opinion. I think he has more options available to him. Obviously, you leaned on Ryan Grubb a lot as an offensive coordinator. He's basically been with you every step of the way since you've been a head coach running your system. Yeah, you could call the plays and do a hell of a job at it. You did it at Indiana. We've watched. That's who he is. He's an offensive guy. But you're not a year into Alabama yet. You could still, whether it's promoting from within, whether it's going to get another guy to run your system from the outside, you don't have to just take the play calling over at this point. Do you agree?
No, I don't think you have to. I just wonder if he's just going to want to, because he's been with Ryan Grubb for so long. So if you're that comfortable with one person, are you going to be comfortable with somebody else? And to me, I think the answer is probably not. So why not go out there and hire an offensive coordinator that you can pawn off some play calling for 10, 15% of the time if you're doing, head coaching things on the sideline. But, to me, I think it's more of a concern for Alabama because, look, this is probably plan B or plan C when Kalen DeBoer got hired, right? So why? Like, what's the next step? And I think for Alabama, I mean, this has to cause some roster dysfunction because, you bring in Austin Mack from Washington, you bring in other players from Washington, and some of the reason was because of Ryan Grubb. Now, like you said, Jake, Kalen DeBoer's system is Kalen DeBoer's system. If he calls plays, great. If he doesn't, whatever. But can they figure out how to do it as well as Ryan Grubb did it? So it's kind of a two-part sort of issue right now. Can the offense stay the way it is? And also, more, I think, importantly, does this fracture the system? Because to me, Ryan Grubb waiting until the 30-day transfer portal window closed was pretty crappy. That's a pretty shady thing to do because basically you're locking in some of the players that you even coached last year into a place that they might not want to be.
Yeah, and again, we always talk about the biggest thing, David, we brought this up multiple times. In this era of college football, continuity and stability is king. Where this hurts you the most, not that you don't know how to call plays, but God, it messes up with the way time is divided because now Kalen DeBoer's got to go about it differently. Do you trust the next guy that you're going to bring in? And that continuity and stability is kind of fractured, like Barrett was saying.
Yeah, it's a really interesting situation because you have a situation where Kalen DeBoer could call the plays, right? But the CEO role at Alabama is going to take so much focus and so much attention. Look, I'm friends with Nick Sheridan. I think you should name Nick Sheridan the offensive coordinator. That would be great.
Yeah,
we'll see moving forward. On the 30-day transfer window, I agree with you. The rules are the rules, though, and it's the right tactical and strategy move, at least in the short term. I just wonder, is there going to be another mass exodus now in April when the transfer portal opens because your offensive coordinator decided to wait until the 30-day portal window closed when technically he had the job offer weeks in advance?
Yeah, that's the biggest question because I was of the opinion, all things being equal, if there was stability in that coaching staff, that Alabama was going to flat out kill it in the spring transfer portal window. But now you're going to go through 15 practice. What if those offensive players don't like what they're being sold?
Yeah.
What if they don't fit into that system? And that to me means you could have a massive roster turnover. And I'm not talking about, being down below 85. They're above 85 scholarships right now. But do you replace 10 players with 10 other good players in that portal? The answer is probably no, because if you have a mass exodus once and then you have another one, these players talk to each other. The biggest recruiters, the best recruiters are the players themselves. Coney, Blaine, you know this all too well. So if the word gets out that this isn't going to work at Alabama, then they're not going to get players they need to compete at a high level. So, Alabama right now is in a state of flux. I don't think that's really that much of a shock. Obviously, the best coach of all time left. But from the folks I've talked to, there's some concern whether or not this is going to work long term. And it got me thinking, guys, could Kalen DeBoer be one of those guys that just gets sick of college and goes to the pros? Because I don't think it's that much out of the question.
Well, again, you look at Ryan Grubb taking that next step. I feel like if one of your coordinators is willing to take that next step and go to the NFL, obviously it's something that you as a head coach and him have probably talked about. I don't know Caitlin like that, Barrett. I think it's all circumstantial. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes we generalize everybody. We put everybody into one basket and say they all want to do this or they all don't want to do this. You know this, Barrett. You've covered coaches for a long time. It's all circumstantial, man. It's just like every business. Some guys want to stay in college. Some guys don't want to go. Some guys want to go to the NFL. A lot of it is where you start, to be honest, as we talked about in the beginning. But I want to make this point. What Alabama did, in my opinion, is it quote unquote not fair to wait the way they did and obviously the transfer portal window has closed until the spring. Yeah, but it is the right tactical move. And at the end of the day, it's an assistant coach that's leaving. So do we set the precedent of, every time an assistant coach leaves, now the transfer portal window opens up for that team? I think that's a slippery slope. I think it should just be the head coach. And listen, if we're going to talk about unfair, you know what's unfair? These damn NIL deals where the players have the side of their contract, they don't have to do anything. It's all on the other side. You don't have to stay a certain amount of time. You don't have, incentives that are locked in or markers that you have to hit like it is in the real world. So look, is it unfair a little bit? Yeah. Guess what? Life's unfair, dog. You got it a lot better than the guys that had to go do the Junction Boys with those lunatics out there in Texas with fire ants and spurs and all this stuff. So, it's hard for me to feel bad. I can understand it, but I feel like that's a slippery slope if we start opening up the transfer portal for assistants.
Well, yeah, but I think the one thing that sort of in Alabama's case and in Michigan's case and these other schools, UCLA now, the 30-day portal window, this is a problem. Alabama starts spring practice in 20 days. They haven't been able to get players in because of the academic calendar. UCLA is in a tough spot because you can't have players come in. So, and you're going to have a massive shortage of talent on the roster or just quantity of players on the roster. But you're right, Jake. Life is unfair. I get that, but this to me is more along the lines of more proof that you need to fix the portal window more than anything else. But I think when you mention different strokes for different folks, coaches have different mindsets. It kind of goes back to something that I've talked about for a long time. In college anyway, the difference between a top 5 job and a top 50 job has shrunk immensely over the course of the last 20, 25 years. And now when you throw in NFL jobs and that being more attractive to some people like Jeff Hafley, like some of these other guys that I think in the future will bail on college to go to the NFL, what's the rebound effect? And to me, I think it means a lot more younger players. And I'm talking, 22, 23, 24, 25-year-olds are going to get really big jobs on staffs very quickly. And so you won't have these guys like Kevin Steele who have been around forever as assistants. You're not going to have these guys because you're going to have more an influx of younger talent, which to me might make the college product even better than it is right now.
Yeah, no, and look, it helps out to recruit. The younger you are, but you're old enough to be able to go in there and talk to parents, it helps out.
It's why Travis Williams has become a superstar.
I agree with
from a coordinator perspective.
I agree with that 100%.
Well, look, let's all be honest here. Let's just lower the expectations at Alabama. Let's just lower them, all right?
Yeah, good luck with that.
Well, what should they be? Honestly, I'm curious.
8-4 is okay
lower
now.
The expectations, what are they? Yeah.
Well, what happens, Barrett, what I've said about Kalen is I think Kalen DeBoer's tenure at Alabama will be defined by the level of freak out, which a lot of us can take a pretty good guess after it goes wrong the first time. What happens if they go up to Madison and those big Siberian cave trolls at Wisconsin, them got up there, start jumping around up there at Camp Randall, and then you get Georgia and the Avengers/Justice League at home the next week, and you drop 2 in a row. All of a sudden, is Roll Tide Willie leading a bunch of villagers with pitchforks and torches up to the mayor's house?
Well, I think in that hypothetical situation, you have to fire everybody, right?
Pretty much. Yeah, fire.
Trainers,
police chief. Everybody.
Just fire everybody in Tuscaloosa. Keep Archibald's around for good barbecue, but fire everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Barrett, I saw you when you brought you on here. You're shaking your head when we were talking about Kyle Shanahan. Give me your thoughts on the Super Bowl and what you think.
Why you got to bring up old stuff? Kyle, look, I don't hold grudges, but I hope every bad thing on the planet comes on Kyle Shanahan.
Falcons fan? Barrett, are you a Falcons fan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just kneel down 3 times and then punt, and you win the freaking Super Bowl.
Well, it's like Boyan forgetting Sarah Marshall when he's teaching him how to surf. He's like,
don't do anything. Do nothing. Do less.
Well, you got to do more than that.
Well, you got to do something. You have to do something.
Now you're just boogie board.
Now you're just boogie board.
Now you're just boogie. Yeah. He's the biggest joke artist in the NFL, maybe even in football history. And I hope all the bad things. Like seriously, the fact that he blew a 10-point lead, a double-digit lead, made me so happy. Leaving my Super Bowl party that I was at, it just made it put a big smile on my face because look, as a Falcons fan, we're never going to get there again, and horrible things are going to come to my franchise all the time. So I wish ill will on everybody, especially Kyle Shanahan.
Well, Barrett, like you're in like a tough spot because I know you're not a Georgia fan per se, so it's not like the Falcons blew it, but hey, the Dogs have won 2 out of the last 3 natties. We can chalk it up. Whatever.
And the Falcons hired Raheem Morris.
And
they hired Raheem Morris, man.
He can't get things right at Auburn.
I think he's going to eventually, Barrett.
I do too.
I will say, it just reminds me when you were saying that on Dave Chappelle when he's at the Player Haters Ball, when he's like, I wish all the bad things in the world happened to you and only you. He's like, now if you'll excuse me, I got to go home and put some water in Pitbull's mama's dish.
Buck
Nasty's mama's dish.
But Barrett, the Falcons hired Raheem Morris, so they're good. They're good to go.
Yeah.
Let's
get it, guys.
All right, let's go to Chris Walt, Barrett. He wants to know what happens if, if you throw good questions there, I'm going to read them. What happens if Bama goes 9-3, but one of the wins will be in Tuscaloosa against Georgia? Do you think Kalen DeBoer will end up being okay with a season like that?
I'm not going to answer a question with a question, but did they make the playoff in that situation at 9-3? Because I think that would tell the tale, right? I think that would tell the tale. If they beat Georgia, but maybe they lose the Iron Bowl, but they still make the playoff, how does the fan base? It's almost like what happens with Ryan Day, right? You lose to Michigan again, but you still make the playoff and you have a chance to win a national championship. What's the response? And again, it's going to be so fascinating because there are going to be so many coaches that lose to their rival, but have another big win somewhere. But in Tuscaloosa, I think that would be tolerable in year 1, right? I think that would be tolerable in year 2, year 3, year 4. Probably not, because the fan reaction would be so much that he might just bail and not want to deal with this anymore. But I think in year 1, if that's the case, I think Alabama fans should be okay with it. But that, I think, is the baseline moving forward. So it's going to be fascinating to see, what the reaction is, because I think everybody understands in Tuscaloosa and around the country, hey, look, you're not going to go undefeated every year. You're not going to be a one-loss team every year. You can't be Nick Saban, Kalen DeBoer, but you should be somewhere close at some point relatively soon.
Yeah, well, thank God for Kalen DeBoer. Alabama hadn't won a national championship in the last 3 years. Can you imagine if Nick Saban would have won a national championship this past year and then rode off in the sunset?
No, man.
It would be the first sign. It's not, it's kind of like a rocket ship for NASA. You can't have one little problem go wrong, because if one thing goes wrong, the whole thing's going to blow up.
Everything goes wrong.
Yeah.
Barrett, we had a question here earlier. Why does Jake like drinking Bud Light so much?
Jake, you like drinking Bud Light?
No, not anymore.
I was going to say something's wrong.
No, not anymore. Not at all.
So I'm a loyalist. This is how much of a loyalist I am. I'm a Brave season ticket holder, and Coors Light's all over the stadium there at Truist Park. So I support the Braves. I go Coors Light.
Look, I don't mind a Coors.
Check the mountains, baby.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, here's the thing. There are so many beer snobs out there, right? It's not like beer's good. Why can't we just all agree that beer is good? It's like ice cream. Like there's no bad flavor of ice cream. There's just different levels of tastiness. So I think
I just can't do Guinness,
Coors
man.
Light at a baseball game is just delightful.
It is. Like, look, light beer, I just can't do Guinness. I just can't do it, man.
No.
I just can't do it. I don't like it. That'd be the only one. But Barrett, I tell you what I do like, man. You're killing it with your new show. Tell everybody where they can find College Football Smothered, Covered, and all that good stuff with my boy, the Beretta.
Yeah, going independent, college football smothered and covered.
Love
it's on YouTube, Rumble, Apple, Spotify, all those places. We're on episode 9 right now. We've done some emergency podcasts too. Having a lot of fun. The success has been awesome to see. We've been in the top 100 on Apple every once in a while. So yeah, it's fun to be independent. It's fun to be your own boss. I think corporate media is not the way to go anymore. So it's fun to try to kill it like you guys and be a part of this ecosystem, this college football ecosystem that fans seem to love.
For sure, man. Well, he's the Notre Dame of college football sports media. Our guy, Barrett Sallee, doing it big, man. Really appreciate it, Barrett. Thank you, buddy. YouTube, what's up? We are 1,000 subs away from 120K. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't. We really, really appreciate it. Check out all our content. Hit that like button, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when we drop content.